Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, I'm going to be telling you about Jirachi Prism Star, one of the more unusual cards we've had revealed, one of the more exciting cards we've had revealed, and quite frankly, one of the most kind of potentially awesome, potentially terrible cards that we've had revealed for quite some time. And as has become somewhat of a tradition, we are seeing it translated by the lovely RappelmannTCG, Mr. David Hochmann himself. So, to start off with the basics, we see that it's got 80 HP, which according to my notes I've got written here, is pitiful. It really is incredibly low. Retreat cost of 1 is very nice, of course, because with Floatstone going away, Escape Board is going to be the way we retreat in the future. So if you can have Pokemon that have a retreat cost of 1 rather than 0, it is going to make a huge difference. So, good on you, Jirachi. It is weak to fire. I mean, to pose you could talk about being weak to Volcanion, but honestly, you've got 80 HP. It's not like you're going to be desperately worrying about being hit for weakness. You ain't lasting more than 5 minutes with this boy. Sorry about that. And then, of course, you have got resistance to Psychic, which could actually be really good. Because you take something like an Espeon using Psybeam, okay, they're going to get the confusion, but 30 damage, take away the 24 resistance, that's only doing 10 damage. That's actually a nice little resistance to have. And being metal, it has got tricks like Solgaleo, Prism Star, etc. But then again, it uses colorless energy, so none of these tricks are that relevant. Even Metal Frying Pan, I mean, yeah, no weakness. And you take 30 less from attacks, but come on, ladies and gentlemen. You got 80 HP. None of this is exciting. What is exciting, however, are the attack and the ability, both of which have the potential to really be very, very nice indeed. So we will start off with the ability here, and the ability says that if you take this card from your face down prize cards, and you've got any space on your bench, you can put Jirachi on your bench and take a prize. You literally just get to take an extra prize. That's crazy good. It gets you an extra prize. Now, we have seen this before. Well, not this exact thing. We've never seen an ability that does this before. But we have had a couple of item cards in recent years that give us extra prizes. Firstly, Greedy Die. If you take it as a face-down prize card, flip a coin if heads you take a prize. This is obviously quite similar, but Jirachi is automatic. But then again, it's a Prism Star Pokemon, so you can only have one on your deck, whereas Greedy Dice is, potentially a 4 of. And Missing Clover, where if you play 4 at the same time, you get to take a prize. Tord Reklev did use this at a League Cup over in Norway, or a League Challenge, but if you're not Tord Reklev, you probably shouldn't play Missing Clover. Neither saw that much play, because to be perfectly honest with you, they just took too much. They were too awkward. Will this? Well, you got 60 cards in your deck, and 6 of them are going down as prizes, so you would expect to have this prized in about 1 in 10 games. But then, of course, your 6th prize you draw when you win the game, so actually that's a bit of a misnomer, because although it's going to be prized 1 in 10 games, in 1 in 6 of those games, it's actually going to be the final prize, so you're not going to be able to take advantage of the ability. But then again, if we look at the upside of this card, it's absolutely phenomenal. Let's say you've got 3 prizes remaining and you KO a GX Pokemon, then you have a 2 in 3 chance of winning the game right there and then, because 2 of your 3 prize cards remaining could be Jirachi. There's a 1 in 3 chance that the Jirachi remains prized, and then that's just a little bit sad. Nothing we can do about that. Now, the good news is that we can actually increase our chances of having Jirachi prized by playing Rotom decks. Rotom Dex is a card that's seen very, very little play so far, but it basically allows you to shuffle your prize cards into your deck and then put the same number of prize cards out again. Essentially, you just reset your prize cards. Now, initially when we looked at this, we went, wow, this will be really good for making sure that if something's prized that we don't want to be prized, we can get it out. Then, of course, Gladium was released and kind of made it obsolete for that purpose. But if you want to put something into the prize cards, this is actually really useful. This is something we can absolutely use. So when you play your first Ultra Ball, you have a look in your deck, and if it is prize, brilliant. If it's not prize and you leave it in your deck, play a Rotom Dex, and we are off and rolling. Now, unfortunately, it might be in your hand at the beginning of the game. If it's in your hand at the beginning of the game, you need to play something like an N to put it back into your deck so that you can play a Rotom Dex and then potentially get it into the prizes. That's a little bit awkward. I mean, you could play something like a Judge because N is rotating at the end of this particular year. Sorry about that. And then, of course, what's super awkward, and this won't happen very often, but there will be some games where you start with Jirachi Prism Star, where in your opening hand, Jirachi Prism Star is the only basic Pokemon, and you have to put it down as your basic to begin the game. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be beyond awkward. Because then you need to use something like a Super Scoop Up to get it into your hand, then an N to shuffle it into your deck, then a Rotom Dex to get it in the prizes. If you start with it, you're probably not using it. But then again, if you think of this ability as just kind of a one-shot occasional yay extra prize, rather than an I must have it every game, then all of a sudden, it's starting to look pretty funky. Now, quick side note here, it is face-down prizes only, so Gladion, Town Map, etc., anything that allows you to look at your prizes, unfortunately, will not work. Sorry about that. Although I do personally like the combo with Kartana GX. Kartana GX gets you a cheeky prize using a GX attack. This gets you a cheeky prize with the ability. If you use both of them in one game, and you could even use Kartana, draw Jirachi, and take 2 straight away. But if you do both of these in one game, that's 1/3 of your prizes essentially done a little bit cheaty. Now, the other thing we do need to mention here, you've got to have bench space when you take the KO. That's a bit of a pain. Because, firstly, you might just not have bench space, although you can control that to a degree. And then, secondly, what happens if your opponent drops a Parallel City to put you down to 3 bench spaces, or a Sudowoodo to put you down to 4 bench spaces? And there's almost certainly going to be things released in the future which will lower your bench space allotment a little bit. The thing to remember is that it's always after your turn that you're going to be using this. You can play a Field Blower to get rid of that Parallel City. You can make sure you've got a bench space. So it's not like your opponent can drop a Parallel City and then you draw the Jirachi. You have always got the opportunity here to sort it out yourself, so to speak. The interesting question for me here, is anyone going to have a KO and choose not to take it because they don't have a bench space if they draw Jirachi? Something to consider. Now, the attack here is also kind of interesting. Essentially, your opponent's active Pokemon is KO'd at the end of their turn. So essentially, you use this attack for free colorless energy, and then if your opponent doesn't get out the active, that Pokemon gets KO'd. The annoying thing is, we've got this ability at the moment, or this attack at the moment. It's Absol from Guardians Rising. And Absol actually makes you put the energy back in your hand, whereas this doesn't. And Absol works beautifully with counter energy if you're behind on prizes. And Absol sees no play whatsoever. No one's playing Absol at the moment. So I don't think Jirachi will see play for the attack. Now, it might see play for the ability, and while we're playing it for the ability, let's have a go anyway. But it is a little bit awkward because your opponent can just be like, oh, I played a switch. Ha! Now you've wasted your attack. Now, in terms of the energy, yes, free energy is a pain, but between double colorless energy, and then maybe you use Magnezone or Solgaleo Prism Star, maybe you use Malamar or Lunala Prism Star, it's colorless energy. You can use it with almost anything. But if your opponent just retreats or switches, bad news, ladies and gentlemen, you've essentially wasted your attack. And the fact that you do 10 damage here actually kind of sucks, because doing 10 damage means that your opponent can now use Ace Roller, and they wouldn't be able to use Ace Roller if this did no damage. So what you really want to do is try and paralyze them or put them to sleep, then use this so they've got to actually have something like an Ace Roller. They can't just manually retreat. Maybe something like a Raichu from Burning Shadows. Starting to sound good, don't get excited. Because you know how I mentioned a skateboard earlier? And I mentioned that with Floatstone rotating out, a skateboard is going to be the go-to way that we retreat our Pokemon in the upcoming format. Floatstone not only reduces retreat cost by 1, but it also allows you to retreat if you've got paralysis or sleep on your Pokemon, which means something like Raichu won't work if everyone's playing a skateboard. Right now it will, because no one's playing that card, but in the future, unfortunately, they probably will. Having said that, it can KO anything. And even if you don't KO your opponent, you're still forcing them to get out the active. Maybe they don't have a good Pokemon on their bench. It could be kind of interesting. It's not the reason to play the card. But it is a nice little bonus if you're playing the card for the ability. And let's be clear about this. This ability is amazing. You will win games with this that you would otherwise lose because you jump ahead in the prize race because you just happen to draw Jirachi. You're not going to have it in your prizes every game. You're not always going to have bench space when you draw it, and sometimes it will be the 6th prize. It's not going to work all that often. But when it does work, it will probably be the difference in you winning the game. It will jump you ahead in the prize race, and it's so good that if you ever have a deck from now until this rotates where you don't really have a 60 card deck, you got kind of a 59 card deck, and you're looking for one extra card to chuck in, and we've all been there. Jirachi Prism Star. Always Jirachi Prism Star. I'm giving this 4 Wassies based on the crazy potential alone, because some people will play this, and it will work sometimes, and it will swing games in your favour, and it's an ability that takes a prize. I don't know, maybe I'm getting too excitable. Either way, I'm sticking at 4 Wassies. You can't make me change. But you can tell me what you think about this card in the comment section, and I would heartily suggest you do so. Make sure you like this video as well, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.